The Overmorph, which is often called the Xenomorph egg, represents the very beginning of the Xenomorph XX121's life cycle, and it is far more than just a simple looking egg. At first glance, it looks like a leathery pod standing around 2.5 feet tall with a tough brown, black or greyish skin. But it is actually a complete organism in itself, with its own complex biological systems inside. Each of these eggs is normally produced by a queen through her ovipositor, and from the moment it is created, it already contains a fully formed facehugger waiting inside, which means both of them, the egg and the facehugger, are developed side by side inside the queen, and sometimes by other means too. These eggs are capable of keeping their occupant alive for an astonishing length of time, often centuries or even thousands of years, by locking away their acid-rich blood into stable salts that slowly release energy over millennia. This explains how eggs on derelict ships, like the one on LV-46, can still hold viable facehuggers after countless years of dormancy. And what truly sets the Overmorph apart from other eggs is its ability to sense and react to potential hosts. At its base, this egg has a rudimentary nervous system linked to a network of pressure and temperature sensitive points and veins that spreads all around its surface area. And these act like sensory organs, kind of like sensing the environment, much as how a snake does with its tongue. So when a host approaches, the egg becomes active, unlocking its stored energy and transferring it to the facehugger inside, effectively powering it up. This is why facehuggers appear lifeless until the moment of release. The top of the Overmorph then splits open into 4 petals, allowing the facehugger inside to launch itself at the victim. If the creature isn't a suitable host for implantation, the egg can just close itself back up again. So over long periods of time, the Overmorph may also develop tendrils like roots that spread out at the base, and these may help them to anchor in place, or to absorb nutrients, or even act as a communication link to nearby eggs, possibly allowing entire clusters of eggs to sense and respond to hosts as a unified group. And this is also seen in Alien Earth, where the Overmorph sends audio signals at more than 75,000 MHz to other life stages, including other eggs, a sound that only Wendy, the hybrid synthetic, was able to hear. Anyway, now that we are done with the brief explanation of what an Overmorph is, and that 50% of the viewers have likely clicked away, let's get to the topic at hand, the 10 types of alien Overmorphs. So the first one, of course, is the normal Overmorph. A normal Overmorph is laid by a queen, and it is a leathery, organic-looking capsule shaped like an egg but textured like a weird mushroom-plant hybrid, at least in appearance. It usually stands about 2.5 feet tall, with a tough, rigid surface that appears brown or greenish-brown in younger specimens, and as revealed by Ridley Scott, they tend to be blackened as time passes by. Its texture looks almost plant-like, with vein-like patterns running across the skin, and at its crown sits a cross-shaped seam that splits open into 4 petals when a facehugger is ready to emerge. Often found clustered together in many numbers, some Overmorphs develop root-like tendrils that spread out from their base, anchoring them to the ground and interlinking with nearby eggs. The second type is the breeding Overmorph. These are the breeding eggs of the royal Overmorphs, and they are a rare variation of the standard Overmorph. They are designed to produce new queen Xenomorphs via the royal facehuggers. Instead of the usual brown or black leathery color, these eggs are green with black splash-like markings near the base, making them distinct from normal eggs. At some point in their life, a queen will instinctively produce these special eggs to ensure the survival and spread of her species. However, because a queen views other queens as potential rivals, these eggs are quickly taken away from her chamber and placed under the care of drones. Typically, only about 5 breeding eggs are produced at once, and while all contain special facehuggers, only one host will survive to become a queen, as the newborn sister queens inevitably fight to the death and only a single one remains, like survival of the fittest. The third type of egg is a hyperfertile Overmorph. These eggs are designed to rapidly boost hive numbers when the colony is struggling. Unlike a normal Overmorph that contains a single facehugger, a hyperfertile egg can carry between 2 and 4 of these facehuggers. The number depends on the hive's situation. If the hive is weak and low on Xenomorph counts, the egg will hold up to 4 facehuggers all at once to maximize growth. If the hive is already strong and stable, the egg will usually hold fewer, sometimes only 1, to avoid waste. This adaptation makes them a kind of an emergency resource, ensuring the hive can quickly replenish its numbers and forces when threatened. Now, number 4 are the Praetorian Overmorphs. The Praetorian eggs are rarer and more resource intensive than standard Overmorphs. They are thicker, tougher, and they have a greenish a tint that makes them stand out from the normal eggs. What makes them special is that they mold from regular Overmorphs, changing both the egg and the facehugger inside. The normal facehugger transforms into a Praetorian facehugger, which always implants an embryo that grows into a Praetorian, which is an elite caste of the Xenomorph species, which are far larger and stronger than ordinary drones or warriors, one that can even evolve into a queen on rare and extreme circumstances or after a massive depopulation event. This means the Praetorian eggs are essentially a way for the hive to create its high-ranking protectors and even future matriarchs when needed. Number 5. The pink Ovomorph. These are an extremely rare and irregular mutation amongst the Overmorphs. Instead of the regular or usual dark brown or black leathery surface, they are actually pink in color. One such egg produces a mutant chest burster called the Gore Buster, which was larger, darker, and far more aggressive than the normal chest burster. Unlike the regular ones, the Gore Buster causes its host to suffer flu-like symptoms like nausea, fatigue, and swelling during gestation. When it finally bursts free, the creature is violent and injects its victim or host with a toxin that makes them literally explode. One of these eggs was smuggled by Weyland Yutani into the luxury world of Celeste, where the resulting monster that was awakened from it wreaked havoc amongst the civilians there. The 6th type is an Overmorph that comes from an egg morphing process. See, when a hive lacks a queen, Xenomorphs have a gruesome backup plan known as egg morphing. In this process, a drone captures a victim and cocoons them in resin, exposing them to special enzymes and hormones that gradually reshape their body into an Overmorph. The drone then injects genetic material from its tail barb, which allows the victim to incubate a facehugger. This transformation takes about 24 to 36 hours, and chillingly, the host does not need to be alive for it to work, as even dead tissue can still become a viable egg. The resulting morphed Overmorph looks and functions like a normal one, although it is often less symmetrical or refined. This concept originally appeared in a deleted scene from Alien, where Ripley finds Dallas and Brett being turned into eggs, which is aboard the Nostromo. But while it was deleted from the movie, it survived in the novelization and in other materials. Number 7. The Titan Overmorph. These were an enormous variant of the Overmorph in Alien's Dark Descent. They are found in large numbers within the place called Xenos City. These eggs looked and functioned much like standard Overmorphs, but they were scaled up to create gigantic facehuggers for the alien hosts. Unlike normal eggs, the Titan Overmorphs did not respond to the presence of humans or to smaller creatures, because their intended hosts were gigantic beings known as the Ancient Citizens. Their origin is uncertain. They may have been grown directly in the city by the engineers, or they were brought there long ago. But they were clearly adapted to fit the biology of the Ancient Citizens rather than way smaller human-sized prey. So essentially they were the Xenomorph egg concept, but on a massive scale, designed to birth monsters of equally massive proportions, like that Titan Xenomorph. Number 8. The Red Overmorphs. While not extensively described on their own, the red Xenomorph eggs, sometimes referred to as the red eggs, are a genesis of the red Xenomorph subspecies, a rebellious offshoot of the Xenomorph hive. These eggs were produced under unusual and chaotic conditions following the death of the original Queen Mother. With the hive in disarray, certain elite guards began to genetically diverge from the main strain. In doing so, they created a new queen, the Red Queen Mother, inside these variant eggs, and they fled to establish a rival hive. Despite the name, the red Xenomorphs weren't physically red, as they looked black and chitinous to human eyes. Actually, the red label came from the original strain, who marked them as different, though to human eyes they were virtually indistinguishable. And so the red eggs were also indistinguishable to humans, but they were visibly different to other Xenomorphs. Now the 9th one here is David's Overmorph. The rogue android David created his own strain of Overmorph during his experiments with the alien pathogen in Planet 4 seen in Alien Covenant. These eggs produced the first stage of the Predatormorph's life cycle. Unlike natural Overmorphs, David's versions were more like bulb-like in shape and contained a translucent inner sac rather than a solid interior of standard eggs. Their surface was made of a protein matrix with keratin and defensive compounds, making them durable, and they emitted a pungent odor. Each egg weighed about 27 kilograms and maintained a cool temperature at around 13.89 degrees Celsius. Like normal eggs, they lay dormant until a host approached, but some had to be touched to open instead of reacting automatically. The facehugger-like parasite inside was similar to the traditional version, latching onto a host and implanting an embryo, but it was clumsier and less agile than its Xenomorph counterpart. And lastly, we have the several black Overmorphs seen in the Alien Earth show. See, while normal eggs are usually greenish or brown in coloration, these here are black. Also, others are seen to have moist leathery skin with veins and tendrils growing all around, while these here are scaly, and the texture seems to be like that of a reptilian skin, or like they were somehow found in a volcanic region and they would have birthed dragons instead. Anyway, the reason they look like this might be due to a mutation, or rather, they have been in dormancy for an extremely long period of time, and thus the surface has started to harden and maybe even fossilize. But take this with a grain of salt, as it might be disproved later in the series. And with the last one here in hand, let's begin with explaining and expanding on how these black overmorphs were collected and what are their origin point in the stars. See, the series shows the eggs in a black and weathered state, which strongly suggests an immense age, perhaps centuries or even millennia of dormancy. This matches perfectly with Ridley Scott's original concept for the eggs inside the derelict ship, as they were originally intended to look blackened and fossilized, lying dormant until disturbed. The Maginot's crew might have came across these ancient long dormant specimens, just as how the Nostromo crew did. The weathered look and the fact that the eggs were still viable after that time ties directly into the same plotline as the 1979 film. But while the Nostromo crew were careless, the crew of the Maginot was specifically sent to collect dangerous specimens, and so precautions were also in hand. And also this is supported in episode 3 when the cyborg named Morrow said that these eggs came from a moon. Well, the exact words were, "A deep space research vessel, this ship finds something on a faraway moon." This is in my opinion the single biggest hint of the eggs being from the same place that the Nostromo visited in the first Alien movie. Further strengthening this connection is the presence of the blue reactive mist aboard the Maginot. This technology is an exact reproduction of the egg dampening mist seen aboard the space jockey's derelict Juggernaut ship in Alien. It is highly unlikely that the Maginot's crew could have engineered such a technology or a mechanism through trial and error in the field without ever seeing one in action. Instead, the most reasonable explanation is that they discovered it aboard a derelict ship and replicated it. This here suggests a direct contact with the space jockey's ship and its technology, meaning the eggs were retrieved and likely lifted straight from the derelict site. The series also dropped a massive Easter egg at the opening scene, a scene that shows a planet possibly being Calpamus, which might have been mistaken for Saturn, as the later annotations describe them being 805 million miles from Earth. In any case, that planet with a ring and with two moons that look like LV-426 and LV-223 makes it far more likely that the Maginot's mission actually visited the same region of space tied directly to the events of Alien, and then that shot was placed to show them leaving the system, and then the crew awakening scene later on might have been actually years later, but it's just that the scenes were made to look like it was around the same time. Finally, the timeline makes this link even stronger. See, if the Maginot's crew retrieved the eggs from LV-426 and then, with the crash, losing them to the Prodigy Corporation, it would explain why Weyland-Yutani later redirected the Nostromo to LV-426 again in the year 2122, 2 years after the Alien Earth events. The corporation, likely dissatisfied with the fallout from the events of Alien Earth, would have sought a fresh supply of Overmorphs directly from the same derelict ship, and this would explain Science Officer Ash being on the Nostromo on its journey back to Earth. This would paint Alien Earth not as a contradiction, but as a precursor or a prequel to the events of Alien of 1979. Thus, taken together, in a nutshell, the blackened fossil-like eggs, the blue mist technology, the cyborg stated that they were found on a faraway moon, the planetary setting resembling Calpamus in the opening scene, and Weyland-Yutani's later actions all point to one conclusion, and this is that the Maginot's crew almost certainly harvested their blackened eggs from the same derelict spaceship, the same one seen in Alien 1979. And so with that, we end this video with the 10 different overmorphs of the Xenomorph XX121 species, and also the origins of the black overmorphs from Alien Earth, as well as the tie-in with the derelict ship from 1979. Now, if you like this video, then press the like button. Do press that hype button to hype the video and push the content further to other people. Also do smash that subscribe button. Till the next time, take care fam.